Welcome, everyone, to vpod.ai. Now, this deep dive is sponsored by Stonefly. They're your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup disaster recovery, hyperconverged VMware, Hyper-V, Proximox Cluster, AI servers, SA365, that's a turnkey security appliance, plus public and private cloud. You can check out stonefly.com for more info on all that.
All right, let's settle in. We've got some really interesting material in front of us today. It looks like a major policy shift potentially coming out of Argentina. The big headline seems like Argentina is seriously planning to launch its own citizenship by investment program.
Oh.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack what this plan actually involves based on the info we have and, why it could be such a big deal globally.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely turning heads in the investment migration world. We've looked through the material, and it really does lay out a specific intention, and some details suggest this is more than just talk. It feels like a concrete plan taking shape. So, yeah, ready to dig in and look at the implications. Okay, let's pull this apart then. So, jumping right in. The core news revealed here is that Argentina intends to create a whole new government agency, and its job, offering citizenship to foreigners. Sounds like a dedicated push, not just tweaking old rules.
It really does seem like a landmark shift. It's explicitly linking citizenship acquisition directly to foreign direct investment. The context provided suggests it's purely strategic, aimed squarely at bringing foreign capital into Argentina. And interestingly, material mentions this comes alongside efforts to tighten up enforcement of their regular immigration rules.
Maybe ensuring this new program is the main route for investment-linked residency.
Could be. And they're not just stating the goal. The plan actually details the structure, how they'll build a machine for it.
Okay, how so?
Well, the plan described involves the Ministry of Economy setting up a specialized agency. Its main role is evaluating, certifying that investments, meet the criteria. And crucially, it's designed to work closely with the Interior Ministry, the Foreign Ministry, and the Migration Directorate. The idea is a smooth, coordinated process.
And I saw a note about it potentially drawing inspiration from models like the U.S. Select USA agency. That's interesting.
It is telling, yeah. Suggests they're looking at established ways to attract foreign business and investment. And the material also points to the legal path they intend to use. It looks like it'll be formalized through an emergency decree.
An emergency decree? Wow, okay.
Yeah, as part of wider immigration reforms apparently coming this week.
That sounds fast.
It does. The text is apparently under review right now. The plan is to issue 2 separate decrees. What's also quite interesting is the mention that the government prefers to take a bit longer to finalize the text. Seems they want to head off potential court challenges once it's published.
Ah, okay. So they're anticipating legal hurdles. That raises questions about, stability.
Definitely something to watch.
Right. Now, the big question for anyone interested, what's the investment level? What's the price tag here?
The threshold mentioned is a contribution of at least US $500,000.
$500,000. And is that just like buying a villa? Or is it tied to specific things?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, actually. The material is quite explicit. The investment must go into projects that actively promote economic development and create jobs. So the aim seems to be distinguishing this from, the more transactional schemes, just buying property or making a donation. They're emphasizing long-term, merit-based contributions. Think productive assets, not passive ones.
So investing in a business, infrastructure, something tangible that grows the economy.
Exactly. Not just parking cash in real estate.
And I noticed a little detail that this $500K figure was actually floated by analysts like IMI way back last November.
Yeah, it suggests the number wasn't just plucked out of thin air. It aligns with some industry thinking on what might work.
Now, the material says specific sectors or regions aren't clarified yet, but what are the analysts expecting? Where might this investment likely be directed?
Based on the info shared, the analysts are pointing towards sectors like agribusiness, energy, technology, and maybe tourism infrastructure. These are areas seen as having, high potential for impact and scaling up. Fits the goal of job creation and economic boost.
And we absolutely have to place this in the broader context, which the material does. Argentina's current economic direction.
Oh, absolutely. It's happening amidst these really sweeping economic reforms under President Milei, often framed through that Austrian school lens. Attracting foreign capital is clearly a central part of that strategy. So the goal seems to be positioning Argentina as a serious player, a really attractive alternative for high net worth people looking for that second passport or a global mobility hedge.
Okay, now one of the most eye-catching claims in the material is about the value of this potential citizenship. IMI apparently projects it could instantly become the second most valuable CBI on the market.
That is a bold claim. And the ranking provided explains their thinking. They argue it's less valuable than Malta, mainly because Malta gives you those extensive settlement rights across, 30 European countries?
Right, the EU-EA access.
Exactly. But they rank it above Turkey, which doesn't offer Schengen travel, and also above the Caribbean options. Because while Caribbean countries often have Schengen access, they don't typically offer significant settlement rights elsewhere.
Okay, so break that down. What specific combination of benefits gives Argentine citizenship this potentially high value, according to the analysis?
Well, what's fascinating here is it's this unique blend. You get regional settlement rights and broad global travel. So Argentine citizenship grants settlement rights in the 9 South American countries in the Mercosur residency agreement.
That's huge, like a South American EU almost for living and working.
In a way, yeah, it's a major supranational settlement bloc. So easier movement and residency across a big chunk of the continent. Then on top of that, you get the visa-free travel to 172 destinations. Critically, that includes the Schengen zone in Europe.
Which is more travel freedom than any Caribbean CBI country offers, right?
That's what the analysis states, yes.
Yeah.
More destinations than any Caribbean program mentioned.
Wow. That mix of deep regional integration and wide global access, that's not something you see often.
It really isn't. It's quite a compelling package on paper.
So if this gets off the ground, what kind of scale are we talking? How much revenue could it generate? The material had some pretty big numbers.
It did. The IMI estimate shared suggests that a $500K program could pull in around 2,000 applications per year.
2,000 applicants at $500,000 each.
You do the math. That potentially adds up to US $2.5 billion annually.
$2.5 billion a year. That's
All right.
significant.
Very significant. And the analysis adds that this number could likely grow after the program runs for a few years, builds a reputation, gets marketed properly.
Incredible potential impact for the country's finances. Okay, so what happens next? Where does this plan go from here?
Well, the immediate next step is that formalization we talked about, likely through the emergency decree process. After that, we should expect the detailed rules, the implementation stuff, to follow in the coming weeks or months. That means specifics on, due diligence checks, the actual processing timelines, the nitty-gritty of the naturalization procedures.
Right, the operational details. So let's bring this back to you, the listener. What does this potential shift in Argentina really mean? Why should you pay attention?
Well, first off, it could genuinely represent a major new option on the global mobility map with that unique Mercosurian combo. It might also shake up regional dynamics in South America, really highlighting the value of those Mercosur rights. And fundamentally, it's a large-scale economic play by a significant country trying to attract capital in a very targeted way. And I think it prompts you to consider, how does this focus on productive investment compare? Both in appeal and maybe practicality, versus programs focused on real estate or donations. What really stands out to you about mixing those deep Mercosur settlement rights with broad global visa-free travel? How does that stack up against other citizenships you might know about?
Okay, let's quickly recap the key takeaways from the material we've looked at. Argentina is actively planning a citizenship by investment program, aiming for a US $500,000 investment threshold. They're setting up a dedicated agency to run it with a clear focus on investment in productive projects that boost the economy.
Right, not just passive holding. And the potential value is seen as very high, mainly because of that powerful combination. Mercosur settlement rights across South America, plus extensive visa-free travel, including Europe's Schengen area.
And the potential revenue stream for Argentina, possibly billions per year.
It definitely leaves you wondering how that emphasis on merit-based or productive contributions rather than the easier passive routes will actually play out. What kind of investors will it attract? And what will the real tangible impact on Argentina's economy look like down the line?
Yeah, good point. And a final thought maybe for you to chew on. How might offering both deep regional settlement rights and extensive global travel in one package fundamentally change the game for citizenship programs, especially outside the usual European or Caribbean hubs? What new kinds of opportunities or maybe challenges does that specific combination create for both the investor and for Argentina itself? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And don't forget to check out Stonefly's offer, a 100 TB immutable and air-gapped SSO NAS for $8,995. You can find details at stonefly.com. We'll catch you on the next one.